The planet Zyrath 9 was a place of chaos. Jagged mountains stretched across the horizon, and storms of red dust swept endlessly over the rocky plains. In the skies, warships from the Krathan faction patrolled aggressively, their weapons scanning for any signs of movement below. It was a planet of fear, ruled by power and danger. Princess Velera of the Etherian Empire had never imagined herself in such a perilous situation. She was trained to lead, to command, and to survive in her palace's political battles. But this was different. Her world had crumbled around her. The Krathan had invaded her territory, and her own guards had been overwhelmed. She ran, heart-pounding, through the narrow canyon, seeking any path to safety. Her dress, though designed for elegance, was not made for fleeing through rough terrain. It tore on jagged rocks, slowing her down. She had no choice but to keep moving. Every echo of enemy footsteps behind her made her pulse faster. Her mind raced. She needed help. She needed a miracle. On the cliff above, a small scouting party of humans observed the scene. Captain Nathan Rourke, a human soldier from Earth, stood quietly behind a rocky outcrop. His eyes scanned the area, analyzing every movement. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Most alien factions dismissed them as weak, unprepared for war in space. But Nathan knew better. Humans were adaptable, quick-thinking, and resilient, and right now he could see that someone needed his help. "That's a Etherian," said Lieutenant Mara, his second in command. She followed Nathan's gaze. "She's alone. That terrain. She won't last 5 minutes against Krathan scouts." Nathan didn't reply immediately. His mind worked fast. He studied the distance, the enemy positions, and the possible escape routes. A reckless thought came to him, but it wasn't reckless to him. Saving her was the right choice. Humans often acted against odds that others considered impossible, and this was no exception. "We move," Nathan said finally. His tone was calm but firm. Mara nodded. They descended silently from the cliffs, using the rocks as cover. Their goal was simple: reach the princess and get her to safety. Below, Princess Velera stumbled as a Krathan soldier appeared at the canyon's mouth. His weapon was long and sharp, designed to pierce armor with ease. She froze, fear rooting her in place. Her training had not prepared her for being hunted alone. From above, Nathan saw the soldier aiming at the princess. Without hesitation, he acted. He grabbed a small energy launcher from his belt and fired a precision shot. The projectile hit the rock beside the soldier, causing a small explosion and sending dust into the air. The soldier stumbled, giving the princess a moment to move. Velera's eyes widened as she looked up. The figure on the cliff, human, was firing at her enemies. She had heard rumors about humans, but she had never seen one in action. Her first thought was disbelief. Then instinct took over. She ran toward a narrow crevice that Nathan had marked from above. Nathan signaled Mara to cover the other side. "Go," he shouted, and both moved down the rocks. His boots kicked up dust, but he didn't care. Every second counted. The Krathan soldier recovered and raised his weapon. Nathan fired again, this time hitting a nearby wall to create a barrier. The soldier fell back, confused. Nathan's strategy wasn't about killing. It was about creating opportunities for the princess to escape. Humans had a way of thinking differently, using their minds before relying on brute force. Velera ran as fast as she could, her breath sharp and fast. She glanced over her shoulder and saw the human soldier moving with agility that surprised her. He wasn't just running. He was guiding her. She felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in hours, hope returned. The canyon twisted sharply. Ahead, a cliff dropped into a deep ravine. The Krathan soldiers were closing in, and the princess had nowhere to go. Nathan assessed the situation. The ravine was too wide to jump, and the ledges were unstable. But there was a narrow path along the edge, just wide enough for two. "Stay close," Nathan called, "and follow my lead." Velera obeyed without question. Her instincts told her that she could trust him, even though she had never met a human before. She had learned quickly that humans were unpredictable, but sometimes unpredictability was the key to survival. They moved carefully along the edge. The rock shifted under their weight, sending small stones tumbling into the abyss below. One wrong step and it would be over. The Krathan soldiers were shouting, frustrated by the humans' speed and tactics. Nathan fired several well-aimed shots to distract them, each one giving Velera a chance to keep moving. Suddenly, a rock gave way beneath her foot. Velera screamed as she slipped, her hands grasping at the edge. Nathan lunged, catching her arm just in time. His grip was firm, steady, and strong. "You're safe now," he said, though the danger was far from over. The princess's chest heaved. She looked at him with wide eyes, trying to process what had just happened. I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. Nathan didn't reply. There was no time for words. The Crathan soldiers had regrouped, and the canyon behind them was filled with movement. He needed a plan, and fast. He scanned the area and noticed a small cave hidden behind a rock formation. It was narrow, but would provide temporary cover. "That way," he said, pointing. "Move quickly." Valera followed, her trust in him growing with every step. She noticed how calm he remained under pressure, how precise his actions were, and how he seemed to think several steps ahead. Aliens like her had been trained to fight wars, yet she had never seen this level of composure. Inside the cave, they finally paused. The sounds of pursuit faded slightly. Valera collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but alive. Nathan crouched beside her, checking her for injuries. "You're lucky," he said. "If you had been alone for another minute, it wouldn't have ended well." Valera looked at him astonished. "Lucky, no. I think it is more than luck. You saved me." Her voice was soft but full of awe. "And for a human, to do this might is remarkable." Nathan gave a small shrug. "Humans are often underestimated," he said. "We have to rely on our wits. And sometimes, courage." She studied him closely. His armor was scratched, his face streaked with dust, but his eyes were steady, clear, and determined. There was no fear in him, only focus, and that focus had saved her life. The cave was small, dark and quiet, but it was safe for now. Valera felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, gratitude, and something else she didn't yet understand. She had been trained to lead armies, negotiate treaties, and handle political intrigue, but she had never experienced this. Personal bravery, this selflessness from a human. "We need to keep moving," Nathan said after a moment. "They'll regroup, and this cave won't hide us for long." Valera nodded. She stood, brushing off the dust. Her royal composure returned slowly, but her respect for this human soldier remained. "Lead the way," she said. As they left the cave and entered the canyon once more, Nathan could see the enemy forces adjusting, searching. But he also knew something else. Humans had a way of changing the outcome of impossible situations. They adapted. They thought differently. They survived when others would fail. And right now, that difference might be the only thing standing between life and death. Valera kept pace beside him, amazed at the human's calm and clever strategy. She had expected to be a burden, but Nathan treated her as an equal partner in survival, guiding her without condescension, protecting her without hesitation. For the first time in her life, the princess began to understand that humans were not weak. They were not inferior. They were unpredictable, bold, and capable of remarkable things. And in that moment, her view of the galaxy and the humans in it began to change forever. Above the canyon, the red sky deepened as night approached. The storms raged, winds whipping dust around like living creatures. But inside the narrow canyon, a human soldier and an alien princess moved together, bound by necessity, courage, and the first spark of trust. For Nathan, this was another mission, another rescue. But for Valera, it was the beginning of a story she would never forget. And though neither of them knew it yet, the bond forged in that canyon would change both their lives and the course of their worlds forever. The narrow canyon stretched endlessly before them, shadows shifting with the dim light of Zerath 9's twin moons. Princess Valera moved cautiously, her boots crunching on the loose rocks. Behind her, Captain Nathan Rourke scanned every corner, alert for any signs of pursuit. The Crathan soldiers were ruthless hunters, and they would not give up easily. "Do you always fight your way through enemy lines alone?" Valera asked, her voice a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Nathan glanced at her and gave a small, tired smile. "I prefer not to, but sometimes it's the only option. You have to adapt when the odds are against you." Valera studied him. Humans, she realized, were very different from her own people. Etherians were trained to think in strategy, to lead armies and negotiate treaties, but humans relied on quick thinking and instinct. It was chaotic, but it worked. And right now it was saving her life. They walked in silence for a few minutes. Dust swirled around them, and the wind carried distant echoes of enemy patrols. Nathan's senses were sharp. He could hear the faint movements of creatures in the rocks, feel the vibration of footsteps far off in the distance. Valera, though trained in royal combat, had never experienced this kind of alertness. "How far is your base?" she asked, trying to break the tension. Nathan shrugged. "Depends on how fast we move. A few hours if we stick to the paths I know. Could be longer if we have to hide or avoid patrols." Valera nodded, absorbing his words. She realized that unlike her royal guards, who relied on weapons and armor, humans relied on knowledge, speed, and courage. Nathan was proof of that. As they continued, a sudden movement in the shadows made Valera freeze. Two figures emerged from behind jagged rocks, a pair of Krathan scouts. They moved silently, weapons raised. Nathan reacted instantly. He grabbed Valera's arm and pulled her behind a rock ledge. "Stay down," he whispered. His eyes scanned the patrol. The scouts were cautious, but they were skilled, trained to hunt even the smallest targets. Valera's heart pounded. "How can we get past them?" she asked. Nathan considered for a moment. He noticed a narrow path along the cliff edge, partially hidden by a rock overhang. It was risky, but it offered cover. "Follow me," he said. Moving slowly, Nathan led the princess along the path. Their movements were careful and precise, each step calculated. One false move, and they could fall hundreds of meters into the ravine below. Valera followed closely, trusting him completely. She had no choice. He was her guide, protector, and only hope. The scouts noticed the movement and raised their weapons. Nathan didn't panic. He grabbed a small device from his belt and threw it to the ground. A bright flash erupted, followed by a loud, disorienting sound. The scouts covered their eyes and ears. "Now!" Nathan shouted. They ran along the hidden path, the scouts scrambling to regain their senses. By the time the enemy recovered, Nathan and Valera had vanished from sight. Breathing heavily, Valera stopped to catch her breath. She looked at Nathan, her eyes wide with amazement. That was incredible. You don't just fight. You think. You plan." Nathan shook his head. "It's not about being incredible. It's about surviving and protecting those who can't protect themselves." Valera felt a strange warmth in her chest. Humans, she realized, were different from anyone she had ever met. They were unpredictable, clever, and brave in ways her people had never imagined. And Nathan, he had risked his life for her, a stranger from another world. For the next few hours, they moved cautiously through the rocky terrain. The path was treacherous, and Zereth 9's natural hazards were as dangerous as the enemy. Dust storms blew suddenly, forcing them to find shelter in small crevices. They navigated steep cliffs, crossed narrow ledges, and avoided unstable rocks. During a brief pause, Nathan studied the princess. "You're trained to fight, aren't you?" he asked. Valera nodded. "Yes, I learned combat, tactics, leadership, and all of it. But I've never been alone in enemy territory like this. I've always had guards, allies, strategies. This is different." Nathan smiled faintly. "You're doing well. Better than most would. But out here, the rules are different. It's not just about training. It's about thinking fast, staying calm, and trusting your instincts." Valera watched him. He moved with quiet confidence, every action deliberate. She realized that humans had a unique approach to challenges. They didn't rely solely on strength or technology. They used creativity, intelligence, and courage together. As night fell, they found a small cave for shelter. The wind howled outside, and the red dust stormed across the canyon. Inside, it was quiet except for the sound of their breathing. Valera finally spoke. "Why did you help me?" "You don't even know me." Nathan looked at her calmly. "Because it was the right thing to do. You were in danger and I could help. That's all the reason I need." She studied him, struck by his honesty. Aliens often acted with politics, power, or fear in mind. Humans seemed guided by something simpler, something pure. Courage, compassion, honor. They ate a small ration of energy bars and water, sharing silence more than conversation. Valera couldn't help but notice how Nathan's presence made her feel safe, despite the dangers outside. She had been trained to lead armies, negotiate treaties, and survive political intrigues. But she had never experienced this kind of protection, this calm in the storm, this quiet strength. In the darkness of the cave, she let her guard down. She shared small details of her life, of her responsibilities, and the fears she had for her people. Nathan listened patiently, without judgment or interruption. His understanding was quiet but complete, a human ability to connect even without words. Suddenly, distant shouts echoed through the canyon. The enemy had tracked their movement and was closing in. Nathan quickly gathered their gear. "We need to move now," Valera nodded. She had learned to trust his instincts. Together they navigated the cave's narrow exit and moved into the rocky terrain beyond. The night sky above was clear, but danger was everywhere. The Krathan soldiers were relentless hunters, and the humans had to rely on speed and clever thinking to stay ahead. As they ran, Valera couldn't help but feel admiration for Nathan. He was not just brave. He was clever, calm, and thoughtful under pressure. Her world had underestimated humans, but she could see now that they were capable of remarkable things. And she felt a growing respect, and perhaps something more, for the human who had risked everything to save her. Hours later, they reached a small plateau, overlooking a valley below. From this vantage point, they could see the enemy's patrols moving through the canyon. Nathan took a deep breath. "We're not out of danger yet, but we have a chance to rest and plan. We'll need to move carefully." Valera looked at him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "You are extraordinary. I cannot believe how humans operate. You saved me not once, but many times today." Nathan gave a faint smile. "I do what I can. Survival is a team effort. Even if it's just two people, we can make a difference." The princess realized that he spoke the truth. Humans might be small in number, but their courage, intelligence, and determination made them formidable. She had underestimated them before, but now she knew better. As they settled down on the plateau, watching the enemy move below, Valera felt a sense of hope she had not felt in days. For the first time since the attack, she believed that they could survive, and she knew that it was because of Nathan, the human soldier who had risked everything for her. That night, under the twin moons of Zirath 9, a fragile alliance was born. An alien princess and a human soldier, strangers from different worlds, had come together against impossible odds. Trust was being built, respect was forming, and something unspoken, something neither could yet name, was growing between them. In the coming days, they would face more dangers, more enemies, and more impossible choices. But for now, they had survived. And in survival, the seeds of something extraordinary had been planted. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But with courage, intelligence, and a willingness to trust one another, even a human and an alien princess could change the outcome, and that was only the beginning. The plateau offered a small moment of respite. Below, the canyon stretched in jagged lines, its cliffs casting long shadows under the light of Zirath 9's twin moons. For a moment, the world seemed quiet. The wind howled through the rocks, carrying red dust in swirling patterns. But for Nathan Rourke and Princess Valera, it was a chance to catch their breath and plan their next move. Valera watched Nathan as he checked their gear and studied the map of the canyon etched into the human's small handheld device. The device glowed softly, casting light across his focused face. She had followed his lead for hours now, and with every step she understood more about him and about humans in general. "You seem to always know what to do," she said, her voice breaking the silence. "Even when danger is right behind us, you remain calm." Nathan glanced at her, his eyes softening. "Experience. And a little bit of instinct. Humans survive by thinking fast, making decisions quickly, and sometimes doing what others think is impossible." Valera frowned slightly. "Impossible? Yes. I've seen impossible things, but never like this. You risked yourself to save me more than once." "Why?" Nathan paused. He considered the question carefully. "Because it's the right thing to do. You are in danger. I could help." "That's enough reason." Valera studied him, astonished by his simplicity and honesty. She had grown up in a world of politics, deception, and duty. In that environment, words were often carefully measured, intentions hidden behind layers of etiquette. Humans, she realized, were different. Their actions spoke louder than words, and their words often carried truth without pretense. I do not understand humans," she admitted quietly. "You are so bold, so clever, yet you are kind. It is unusual." Nathan chuckled softly. "Maybe unusual for your world, but humans have survived because of it. Strength is not just about power. It's about courage, cleverness, and heart." They moved along the plateau, keeping to the shadows, careful not to reveal themselves to enemy scouts below. Despite the relative calm, Valera remained tense. She knew the Krathan soldiers would not give up easily. Her mind raced with possibilities and dangers, yet Nathan's steady presence eased some of her fear. As they walked, Valira began to share stories from her life. She spoke of the Etherian Empire, of the palace, of her responsibilities and the expectations placed upon her. Nathan listened intently, asking questions at the right moments, showing genuine interest. She noticed how he never interrupted, never judged. "You are very different from your people," she said finally. "Most alien species would see me as untouchable and sacred. They would not risk themselves for someone like me." Nathan shook his head. "Humans don't see it that way. We help because it matters. We protect because we care. And sometimes we protect because it's the right thing to do." Valira felt a growing warmth in her chest. The idea that someone could act selflessly, without expectation of reward, fascinated her. Her life had been full of duty, strategy, and caution. Nathan showed her that bravery could also be kind, clever, and compassionate. Their conversation was interrupted by a distant, echoing shout. Valira froze. Nathan raised his hand, signaling her to stay low. The Krathan soldiers had discovered their general location and were closing in. "They are moving faster than expected," Nathan said quietly. "We'll have to change our route." He led her to a narrow gorge, a path carved naturally between cliffs, barely wide enough for two. The gorge was dark, almost pitch black, but Nathan moved with confidence. Valira followed closely, trusting him completely. Halfway through the gorge, a sudden movement caught their attention. Two Krathan scouts appeared, their weapons drawn, blocking the path ahead. Nathan quickly assessed the situation. The gorge was narrow, leaving little room for maneuvering. But retreat was not an option. "Stay behind me," he whispered, "and follow my lead." The scouts advanced, confident in their advantage. But Nathan was quicker. He fired 2 shots from his sidearm, hitting the walls near the scouts' feet, creating small rock slides that forced them to stumble. Using the momentary confusion, he sprinted past, pulling Valira along. The rocks clattered and slid into the abyss, but they kept their balance, moving with precision and speed. When they reached the end of the gorge, they found themselves on a rocky ledge overlooking a deep chasm. Nathan scanned the area carefully. "We need to climb down," he said, pointing to a narrow rope bridge that stretched across the chasm to a lower path. "It's risky, but it's our only option." Valira swallowed hard. The bridge looked fragile, swaying slightly in the wind. She had never crossed anything like it before. Nathan noticed her hesitation. "Trust me," he said simply. "I'll go first and I'll make sure it's safe." Step by step, Nathan crossed the bridge, testing each plank and securing the rope as he moved. Valira followed, gripping the ropes tightly. Her heart raced, but Nathan's calm voice guided her, giving her courage. By the time they reached the other side, she was exhausted but alive. Once across, they took a brief moment to rest. Valira leaned against a rock, watching Nathan adjust his gear. She realized that with every challenge, her respect for him grew. He was not just strong, he was thoughtful, clever, and courageous. And he had saved her life more times than she could count. "Why do you keep putting yourself at risk?" she asked quietly. "You could retreat and save yourself, but you don't." Nathan paused. "Because some things are worth the risk. Protecting someone who cannot protect herself. That matters, and sometimes it's not just about survival. It's about proving what humans can do." Valira felt a strange admiration mixed with awe. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but she was beginning to see why they were feared and respected in their own ways. They were resourceful, unpredictable, and fearless when it mattered most. And Nathan, he embodied all of it. As night deepened, they moved toward a safer location. Nathan led her to a small overhang where they could hide from patrols. The wind carried the sounds of distant footsteps and low shouts, but the humans' small size and the rocky terrain gave them cover. While resting, Valira noticed Nathan tending to minor scrapes and cuts he had received during the day. His armor was scratched, his uniform dusty, yet he remained calm, focused, and alert. She realized that unlike her own guards who relied on strength and protocol, humans relied on resilience and adaptability. It was a combination that allowed them to survive situations that others could not. "You have survived so much today," she said softly. "I don't know how to repay you." Nathan shook his head. "No repayment needed. Just stay alive." "That's enough," Valira smiled faintly. She could not understand completely why he acted the way he did, but she knew she trusted him, and that trust was powerful. It was the foundation of an alliance that could grow stronger, even across the boundaries of species and worlds. The night passed slowly. The stars above shone brightly, reflected in the red dust that covered the landscape. Valera kept glancing at Nathan, watching how he moved with careful precision, always aware of his surroundings. She thought about her own life, her training, and the expectations of her people, and she realized that she had underestimated humans. They were clever, brave, and capable of actions that no one could predict. When dawn approached, the canyon below began to stir. Enemy patrols moved cautiously, unaware of the humans above. Nathan checked their position carefully. "We have a window," he said. "We need to move quickly. If we time this right, we can get closer to a safe zone before they notice us." Valera nodded. She felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The challenges ahead were still great, but she had a new perspective. Humans were not the weak, expendable creatures her people thought. They were brave, inventive, and capable of incredible feats. Together, Nathan and Valera moved through the canyon, their movements synchronized, their trust growing with every step. The bond between them was fragile but strong, built on survival, respect, and the first hints of admiration that went beyond duty. By the time they reached a safer area, far from immediate danger, Valera felt a new sense of understanding. She had seen humans in action, how they think, how they survive, how they act with courage and honor. Nathan had saved her life, yes, but he had also shown her a new way to see the galaxy. The Krathan soldiers would not give up. More dangers awaited. But Valera no longer felt helpless. With Nathan by her side, she felt a growing confidence. Humans were not just allies, they were something extraordinary, and she had a front-row seat to witness it. As the sun rose over the rocky plains of Zereth 9, the princess and the human soldier prepared to face the next challenge. Together they were stronger than any of their enemies could imagine, and the bond they had begun to form would carry them through the trials yet to come. The morning light painted Zereth 9's rocky plains in a harsh reddish glow. The twin moons had faded, leaving shadows stretching across jagged cliffs and deep canyons. Captain Nathan Rourke and Princess Valera moved cautiously, their senses alert. They had survived the first night, but the Krathan soldiers were relentless. Every moment of safety was temporary. Valera followed Nathan closely, her trust in him deepening with every step. She had never imagined that a human could be so clever, so brave, and so reliable. Every action he took was deliberate, every decision calculated, yet it was also bold. She had witnessed his courage firsthand, and her admiration for him grew stronger with each passing hour. Suddenly Nathan stopped and crouched behind a rock. He raised a hand, signaling Valera to do the same. Below, a Krathan patrol was moving through the canyon, scanning the terrain. It was more organized than previous patrols, better equipped and more dangerous. Nathan's jaw tightened. They were walking into a trap. "They've increased their numbers," Nathan whispered. "We can't outrun them forever. We need to make a stand." Valera's eyes widened. "A stand, but we are only two. How can we fight them?" Nathan gave a small, calm smile. "We don't fight like they expect. We fight smart. Humans have a way of turning impossible odds in our favor." He led her to a narrow ridge overlooking a small plateau. The ridge was high, giving them a clear view of the enemy forces below. Nathan's mind worked quickly, analyzing the terrain, the number of soldiers, and the possible tactics. He needed to create an advantage despite being outnumbered. "Follow my lead," he said. "We'll use the terrain and our tools. Timing is everything." Valera nodded, though a wave of fear passed over her. Nathan's calm confidence reassured her, though. She had learned that humans remained steady even when danger seemed overwhelming. Nathan set up a few small devices along the ridge. They were simple, portable explosives designed to create obstacles and distractions. Valera watched in amazement. He was preparing a battlefield, using his mind rather than brute force. The Krathan soldiers began to notice their position and moved toward the ridge. Nathan checked his weapon and whispered, "Get ready." As the first soldiers approached, Nathan activated the devices. Small explosions erupted, sending clouds of dust and rock into the air. The soldiers were momentarily blinded and disoriented. Nathan used the chaos to fire precise shots, forcing them to scatter. Valera followed his movements, learning instinctively how to stay calm and act quickly under pressure. The enemy regrouped, more cautious this time. Nathan analyzed their movements and adjusted his strategy. He used narrow paths, high ledges, and falling rocks to slow them down. Each action was calculated, a combination of speed, intelligence, and courage. Valera marveled at his ability to stay ahead of the enemy at every turn. "Your tactics?" They are unlike anything I have seen, she said, her voice breathless. Nathan glanced at her. Humans are underestimated for a reason. We adapt, we improvise, and we survive. That's how we turn the impossible into possible. Valera's respect for him grew. Humans were not only brave, they were clever and relentless. Nathan had already saved her life multiple times. But now she saw how humans could change the course of a battle using intelligence and creativity, rather than sheer numbers. The Krathan soldiers were closing in on their position again. Nathan led Valera to a small cluster of rocks that offered both cover and a tactical advantage. From there he could control the approach of the enemy and strike at the right moments. The battle began in earnest. Nathan used his weapons, devices, and the terrain to force the Krathan soldiers into traps. Small explosions, sudden rockfalls, and precise shots created confusion and fear among the enemy ranks. Valera fought alongside him, using the skills she had learned from Nathan to stay safe and help him. At one point, a group of soldiers attempted to flank them from the side. Nathan reacted instantly, throwing a device that created a flash and loud noise. The soldiers stumbled, giving Nathan and Valera the chance to reposition. "You are remarkable," Valera whispered as they moved. "I never imagined that humans could do this." Nathan's eyes met hers briefly. "It's not about being remarkable. It's about using what we have and thinking fast. Anyone can survive if they act smart." The fight intensified as the Krathan soldiers pressed harder. Nathan noticed that their leader, a tall, armored figure, was coordinating the attacks. Nathan realized that the battle would only end if they disrupted the leader. He whispered to Valera, "Stay close. We take him out and the rest will falter." Using a combination of agility and clever positioning, Nathan drew the leader toward a narrow path between rocks. The leader followed, thinking Nathan was retreating. At the perfect moment, Nathan triggered a device that caused a rock slide, blocking the path and separating the leader from the rest of the forces. Valera watched, amazed, as Nathan confronted the enemy leader. He didn't attack recklessly. Instead, he used quick maneuvers, precision strikes, and intelligence to disable the leader's weapons. The tall figure stumbled, defeated by the human soldier's skill and strategy. The remaining Krathan soldiers, seeing their leader defeated and trapped, began to retreat. Nathan and Valera watched as the enemy withdrew, their formation broken and morale shattered. The humans had turned the tide, despite being heavily outnumbered. Valera's chest swelled with admiration. Nathan had risked everything, using courage, intelligence, and sheer willpower to protect her. She had never seen bravery like this, not in the palace, not in the army, not in any of her experiences. Humans were underestimated, yes, but Nathan had proven that they could face impossible odds and win. Once the enemy had fully retreated, Nathan lowered his weapon and surveyed the battlefield. He was exhausted, his armor scratched and battered, but his expression remained calm. Valera stepped forward, her eyes wide with gratitude and awe. You saved me again," she said softly. "And you saved yourself and even defeated them. How did you do it?" Nathan shrugged lightly. "I did what I had to do. Think fast, act fast, and use the terrain. Humans survive because we adapt. We fight when needed, but we also protect those who cannot protect themselves." Valera shook her head, still struggling to comprehend. "You are more than a soldier. You are extraordinary. I have never seen anyone, alien or human, act like this." Nathan gave a small, tired smile. "I'm just a human doing what humans do. We survive, we protect, we adapt, and sometimes we prove that being small doesn't mean being weak." The princess's heart raced. She had been trained to lead, to fight, and to survive in her own world. Yet she had never seen courage, intelligence, and honor combined in this way. Nathan had risked his life repeatedly, fought enemies far larger and stronger, and protected her with unwavering determination. Valera realized that the bond between them had grown stronger through battle. It was more than trust now. It was respect, admiration, and perhaps something deeper she could not yet name. Nathan had shown her that humans were capable of extraordinary things, and she was beginning to understand that the galaxy had underestimated them for a reason. As the sun climbed higher, Nathan and Valera moved to a safer location, away from the battlefield. The red dust swirled around them, but the danger had passed, at least for now. Valera looked at Nathan, her mind racing with questions and emotions. "Why do you keep fighting? Why do you risk everything for me, for others?" she asked. Nathan paused, considering his answer. Because it's the right thing to do. Humans fight when it matters. We protect when it matters. We survive when it matters. And today, it mattered. Valera nodded slowly. She had learned more about humans in a single day than she had in her entire life. They were brave, clever, adaptable, and honorable. Nathan had proven all of it. And she knew that she owed him more than gratitude. She owed him trust, respect, and perhaps even her life. As they rested on a rocky ledge overlooking the canyon, the wind carrying dust and distant sounds of retreating soldiers, Valera felt a sense of awe and hope. Nathan had shown her that humans could face impossible odds, change the outcome of battles, and protect those who mattered. The Crathen would not forget this day, and neither would she. Nathan had fought like a hero, not just for survival but to protect her, and for that she knew she would never forget him. The bond between them had grown stronger in battle, and Valera understood that their journey was far from over. More dangers awaited, more enemies would come, but together they could face anything. Nathan had shown her the true power of courage, intelligence, and human spirit, and it was more than any princess had ever expected. The day ended with the red sun casting long shadows over the canyon. Valera watched Nathan, marveling at his strength, focus, and bravery. She felt something stir within her, a mixture of admiration, gratitude, and respect that went beyond words. And as they prepared to move forward, she knew one thing for certain. Humans were not weak. And Nathan Rourke, the human soldier who had saved her life again and again, was extraordinary. The sun was just rising over Zereth 9, casting a golden glow over the rocky plains. Captain Nathan Rourke and Princess Valera had spent the night in a small hidden canyon, recovering from their relentless journey and the battle they had faced the previous day. For Nathan, it was another mission, another challenge. For Valera, it was a new beginning, a realization of the courage, ingenuity, and unwavering strength of humans. The Crathen soldiers had been forced to retreat, their morale shattered by the humans' clever tactics. The princess's territory remained unsafe, but for the first time in days she felt hope. Nathan had proven that even against impossible odds, humans could survive, adapt, and protect those in need. Valera looked at him as he inspected his equipment. His uniform was dusty and torn in places, his armor scratched from countless near misses, but his posture remained calm, composed, and confident. She could see the faint fatigue in his eyes. Yet there was no hint of regret or fear, only determination. "You are remarkable," she said softly. Almost to herself, Nathan glanced at her, giving a faint smile. "I'm just doing what needs to be done," he replied. "Humans survive. We fight when it matters. We protect when it matters. And sometimes, we make the impossible possible." Valera's eyes reflected a mix of admiration, gratitude, and something deeper that she did not fully understand. She had been trained to rule, to lead armies, and to negotiate complex political situations, but Nathan had shown her something different, something that went beyond titles or power. He had risked his life for her, and in doing so, had shown her the true meaning of courage, honor, and loyalty. They began their journey toward a safer area, a hidden base Nathan knew where friendly allies could help them regroup. Valera kept close to him, moving with a grace that hid her exhaustion. She spoke little, but her thoughts were full. The human had not only saved her life, but had changed her perception of humans forever. As they moved through the rocky terrain, Valera finally spoke again. "Captain Nathan, there is something I must give you. Something that is very important in Etherian tradition." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Etherian tradition?" he asked, curiosity clear in his voice. Valera nodded, her expression serious. "Yes. When someone saves the life of a member of the royal family, there is a reward, not for wealth, not for power, but for honor. It is given personally by the one whose life was saved." Nathan tilted his head slightly, unsure how to respond. "You don't have to do that. I didn't do this for reward." Valera stopped and looked him directly in the eyes. "I know, but it is my choice to give it, and I insist." Nathan felt a rare sense of uncertainty. He had faced countless battles, encountered dangerous aliens, and survived situations that seemed hopeless, but this was new. The idea that a princess would offer him something so meaningful, something personal, left him speechless. Finally, they reached a small clearing where Nathan's allies were waiting. The humans had set up a temporary safe zone with supplies and medical equipment. Valera took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "Nathan," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "you have risked your life more times than I can count. You have saved me when I was helpless, guided me when I was lost, and fought when the odds were impossible. In Etherian tradition, I must give you a reward." Nathan's eyes widened. "Valera, you really don't have to. I did what anyone would do in my place." She shook her head. "No, Nathan. You are not like anyone else. You are extraordinary, and I want to honor you properly." She stepped closer, and Nathan noticed a small glowing pendant in her hand. It was delicate, shaped like a star, and pulsed with a soft golden light. The pendant was a symbol of gratitude, trust, and bond between the giver and the recipient, a symbol that in Etherian culture was only given to those whose actions had been truly heroic. "This," she said softly, "is for you. To show my respect, my gratitude, and my trust. It is a bond between us, one that cannot be broken lightly." Nathan stared at the pendant, unable to speak. He had received awards, medals, and commendations for his missions, but this was different. This was personal. It was honor, gratitude, and recognition all in one, and it came from someone he had fought to protect, someone who had shown him trust beyond words. Valera gently placed the pendant around his neck. Nathan felt its warmth, a subtle energy that seemed to hum softly against his chest. He looked at her, finally finding his voice. I don't know what to say," he admitted. "Thank you. Truly, this means more than anything I've ever received." Valera smiled faintly, a soft warmth in her expression. "You do not need to say anything, just know that your courage, your intelligence, and your honor will never be forgotten. Not by me, and not by my people." Nathan nodded slowly, feeling a deep sense of pride, not for himself but for the recognition of what humans could accomplish. He had always known that humans were underestimated across the galaxy, dismissed as weaker or less capable than other species. But Valera's gift, her acknowledgement, proved something greater. Humans were capable of heroism, of ingenuity, and of compassion that few others could understand. For a long moment, they stood together in silence, the wind sweeping red dust across the plains, the twin moons fading behind the horizon. Nathan's heart was steady, but he felt a rare warmth in his chest. He had faced countless dangers, fought enemies beyond imagination, and survived impossible odds, but this moment, the trust and honor given by Princess Valera, felt like a victory unlike any other. "I will carry this with me," Nathan said finally, touching the pendant gently. "Not just for you, but for what it represents, for what humans can do when we fight for what is right." Valera nodded, her eyes shining with sincerity. "And I will never forget what you have done. You have not only saved my life, but reminded me that courage and honor can come from any being, from any world." Their allies began to approach, offering supplies and preparing for the next stage of their journey. But Nathan and Valera remained together for a few more moments, sharing a quiet understanding that went beyond words. The bond forged through danger, trust, and shared experience had become something unbreakable. As they moved toward the safe zone, Valera glanced at Nathan once more. "You are more than a soldier, Nathan. You are extraordinary, and I am proud to know you." Nathan allowed himself a small smile, feeling a rare mix of humility and pride. "And I am honored to have met you, Valera. You are a true leader, brave and wise, and I am glad I could help." Together they walked into the new day, the dangers of Zerath 9 behind them for now, but the future filled with challenges, adventure, and the bond they had forged in fire. Nathan had proven the power of humans, and Valera had recognized it in a way that no one else could. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of danger, but together, a human soldier and an alien princess had shown that courage. Intelligence and honor could overcome any obstacle, and in the quiet moments beneath the twin moons and the red skies of Zerath 9, they both knew that this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. For Nathan, the pendant around his neck was more than a gift. It was a symbol of trust, a reminder of the lives humans could touch, and proof that even in a galaxy full of conflict, honor and courage could shine brighter than any weapon. For Valera, the human soldier was more than a protector. He was a hero, a friend, and a living example of the strength she had underestimated for so long. And as they moved forward together, she knew that the bond they shared, born from survival, forged in courage, and sealed with trust would endure far beyond the dangers of Xyrath 9. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but Nathan Rourke had proven that even one human could change the course of events, save lives, and earn the respect and trust of even the most extraordinary beings. And Princess Valira's reward was not just a pendant, it was recognition, honor, and a promise that their worlds, though different, could be united by courage and loyalty. As they continued toward the safe zone, Nathan glanced at Valira and smiled. She returned it with a faint, proud smile of her own. Together, human and alien, soldier and princess, they had faced the impossible and emerged stronger, bound by trust, and ready for whatever the galaxy would bring next. And in that moment, Nathan realized something profound. Sometimes, the greatest victories are not in battle alone, but in the honor, trust, and bonds forged between worlds.